Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting because Ogrepon, I remember there was one region, I can't remember which one, but it was maybe a month or two ago where we didn't see a single one in the top 12 usage in day 2, and we thought, oh, Ogrepon is not good anymore at all. But then we just saw, yeah, Ogrepon in the last match, and we're about to see Ogrepon Water Mirror. But let's go ahead and dive right into the players. So first we have Joji Kaieda, very famous Japanese player who has gotten the Global Challenge 3 first place, Day 2 World Competitor last year, as well as gained Nationals top 16 in Japan the previous year. And yeah, as you could probably tell from the champion of the Global Challenge 3, really, really skilled in the ladders, getting first place at the end of the season, which really is no easy task. And we go ahead and see his team of Ogrepon, Wellspring, Goldengo, Rillaboom, Urshifu Rapid Strike, Tornadus Incarnate, and Arcanine Hisuian. So this seems like pretty close to what a lot of people call the Marco team, has both Tornadus and Goldengo, except that the defensive backbone doesn't really have Amoonguss or Iron Hands. It's more Ogrepon and Rillaboom. So pretty interesting. Any thoughts on your end on this team?
Yeah, it looks like, that Goldengo, we did see the Choice Spec set in the first game, and now we have the Nasty Flood setup, which I think is very, very scary to face off against, especially that now Flutter main usage has dropped off and people are playing that Terra Dragon set. Like, personally, I think it's like one of the scariest Pokemon to go up against. And then with the recovery of not only the leftovers, but Rillaboom coming in with the Grassy Surge recovery and supporting it with Fake Outs as well. And then you have the Ogrepon, which personally, I never really understood why, especially the water version, ever dropped off, because I think in that Follow Me is just also so powerful to have, and if you go for that Terra Water, you get that special defense boost as well in the correct situation. I think it's just a really, really great setup of a team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ogrepon really strong in being able to basically change around its weaknesses completely by terastallizing and getting that defensive special defense boost. And like you said, I think this Goldengo is really well supported, having the redirection, the fake out, and the speed control in Tornadus. Looks like, you can really carry it to victory while also still having the really offensive components of Urshifu and Arcanine. So yeah, it's a really well-balanced team, and I'm really curious to see like how it pairs up against his opponent, which would be Ivo Giorgini.
Yeah, Ivo's playing also something kind of similar, also Ogrepon, Wellspring Mask, Goldengo, but instead of the Rillaboom, we have Bramblegast once again as the grass type, Urshifu, Tornadus, and Landorus instead of the Hisuian Arcanine as Ivo's Intimidator.
Yeah, I think if I were to see this team preview, I would be really scared if I was Joji, since this Bramblegast really, really strong in the mirror match, and especially given like the defensive backbone we just talked about being, Ogrepon, Rillaboom. Both of those do really ineffective damage to Bramblegast, and also being able to free ride off of the opposing Bleak Wind Storms. I could see that being the potential star of this show. So I think it really comes up to how much Ivo can really push through the Bramblegast versus how much Joji can, take it down without taking too much damage.
Yeah, there's two things on Joji's team that really threaten this Bramblegast. You have the Shadow Ball from the Goldengo, and you have the Flare Blitz from the Arcanine. Being immune to that Bleak Wind Storm is just really huge in the situation, because even if you bring Bramblegast down to this Focus Sash, or even if you just damage it with any other move a little bit, it has access to that strength set, which, if it targets something like an Arcanine or Urshifu or even Rillaboom, is just going to heal all the way back up. And, if the Focus Sash isn't broken yet, then you can recover that and just, survive another turn. So I think that could be very difficult here for Joji to deal with. So yeah, going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
Definitely. We'll see how much this Bramblegast can shine, but I think we are ready to kick off our match. So we go ahead and see the leads from Ivo. It is Tornadus and Landorus, whereas on Joji's side we have the Tornadus and Arcanine.
Yeah, so both players.
So pretty interesting.
The Tailwind Setters and also the Intimidators.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of a mirror already in that regard, but I think from a typing perspective, I think I would prefer to be in Ivo's seat, especially I might have just missed the Intimidate orders. So even that is pretty relevant, but in case the Landorus is faster, that would be even more advantageous. So I think Joji would be forced to either terrestrialize or retreat in order to not take too much damage this turn.
Yeah, and of course the Arcanine being threatened here by the Landorus, the Stomping Tantrum means that Arcanine is going to have to cut a little bit, because this Landorus is not the typical Choice Scarf set, it is actually a Choice Band set. And we are going to see a terrestrialization here. First turn in the game, first Terra, it is going to be that Arcanine going to get rid of that ground weakness and terrestrialize into the normal type, meaning that this extreme speed is going to be very powerful, but of course there was the Intimidate drop, so we can just a little bit. Bleak Wind Storm coming out from Joji first, going to do quite a good amount of damage to both of these Pokemon. Gonna get that speed drop on the Tornadus, which could be huge. Rock Slide coming out from this Choice Band. Landorus hits the Tornadus for great damage, and a Rock Slide from the Arcanine as well. And Evo's Tornadus going last is going to go for a Bleak Wind Storm as well, but all of these Pokemon taking Bleak Wind Storms and Rock Slides, but all of them are still on the field.
Yeah, and it was not just the leads, it was the moves themselves that were basically complete mirrors. They both went for Bleak Wind Storm, they both went for Rock Slide. And yeah, I guess the only difference was that there was a miss on the Arcanine on Joji's end, but I think it makes sense from both players' perspectives. I think they were really confident in their Tornadus's bulk training, and thought that, okay, maybe I can get a free Bleak Wind Storm off this turn first before I get off my Tailwind. So yeah, I think next turn it'll be seeing which player goes for Protect or goes for Tailwind. I think they may be able to further delay the Tailwinds that way.
Yeah, and I believe we saw Joji lock in another Rock Slide, so no switches this turn. Tornadus is going to go for a Protect here, does not want to go down, as Tornadus is going to set up a Tailwind here, so it's going to be faster for a few turns. Landorus going for another Rock Slide, it is locked into that. Both of these Pokemon are because of their Choice Band, and it is going to miss that Arcanine once again, as it fires back with a Rock Slide of its own, is not going to miss either of these Pokemon and take both of them out. So Joji is up 4-2 already after just 2 turns.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is what we call having your cake and eating it. So I think Joji protected his Tornadus to saying, okay, I'm okay if you knock out my Arcanine as long as I can get an extra turn of Tailwind by setting it up after you. But in this case, since he avoided the Rock Slide and got the 2 KOs in return, yeah, he was able to delay the Tailwind and also be up in the Pokemon count. So it's really, really looking good for Joji. I think my only concern is that both this Brambleghast and Urshifu have priority attacks, and since Evo is already in Tailwind, his priority moves are guaranteed to go before the Tailwind over on Joji's end. So I think he will be forced to either retreat the Tornadus, wanting to definitively go for the Tailwind maybe a little bit later after the opposing Tailwind subsides, or just let it take the bait, and yeah, it might end up actually being a double KO for Joji. So really curious to see how he may defensively go through this turn.
Yeah, and this Arcanine is actually going to switch out, going to get rid of that Intimidate drop. Might come in later for finishing Extreme Speed, but it is going to be the Rillaboom switching in here for Joji, which I think looks very nice against this Brambleghast, and of course also the Urshifu. Urshifu is going to go for an Aqua Jet into this Tornadus, which did not switch out, so no Tailwind for Joji, which might be a little bit risky, but on the other hand, if Joji can manage to just stall out his opponent's Tailwind, maybe might not need it himself, and that power was actually doing a lot of damage to this Rillaboom. That was a lot more than I expected, so really Brambleghast showcasing just how much damage it can do when it gets that Tailwind Wind Rider boost.
Right, I mean, I don't know if, so I totally see how that Rillaboom switch-in happened for Joji. Like, he thought, okay, like, my Arcanine is currently normal type, so there's no way a Poltergeist is going through it. It's going to be the Power Whip, which my Rillaboom resists. But I'm not sure, yeah, like, there's both the grassy terrain and the Wind Rider boost that you mentioned. So the Power Whip, even though it's being resisted by Rillaboom, the damage is basically at neutral. So that's why it did basically half, and now I think Evo has options to either go for the close combat or the Poltergeist to get the knockout over on that slot. So yeah, even though it looked pretty good for Joji having the 4-2 matchup previous turn, it's not looking as good anymore.
Yeah, and I think we mentioned that this Brambleghast could be very difficult to deal for Joji, and since he has Rillaboom on his team, also giving the Brambleghast that extra boost means that this mirror is just becoming even tougher. But it is still a 3v2, so Ogerpon coming in here now, looking very nice against this Urshifu, but I would still be a little bit scared of this Brambleghast if I were Joji. Maybe even considering switching in an Intimidate, which he is going to go for here to get that drop on the Urshifu, but especially on the Brambleghast. But weakening any close combats from this Urshifu, probably also not a bad idea. It's not going to go for Surging Strikes into that Ogerpon, having that water absorbability. But we are going to see Ivo go for Terrestrialization on the Brambleghast, is going to be that Ghost type. So a Poltergeist here into the Ogerpon slot could do a lot of damage, but of course could have maybe also gone into that incoming Arcanine switch. And I'm gonna guess that, no, it is gonna be Poltergeist into the Ogerpon slot. It did lose its +1 attack boost. How much is this gonna do? Ogerpon survives thanks to that Intimidate, and the close combat is gonna be enough to finish off this Arcanine. So yeah, Urshifu at -1 attack at that close combat still being enough, since Arcanine, being a normal type, even if it had still been that rock type, would have still been super effective damage. So now, Ivo really coming back from this quite well. Now it is back to a 2v2. That Hornleech, bringing Brambleghast down to its Focus Sash, having lost its grass type means that, that was neutral damage, and Brambleghast having paper-thin defenses means that, it's taking a lot of damage from pretty much anything that hits it.
Absolutely, but I think Brambleghast's strength is less in its, ability to be defensive and more just dishing out the damage that we just saw. Even being at neutral, that Poltergeist doing, 80-90% to that Ogerpon. And yeah, I thought that was a pretty interesting turn. I think Ivo did really well in guessing the switch in of Arcanine correctly. Like, you can imagine that if the Poltergeist had gone into the Ogerpon switching out to Arcanine and then the Woodhammer going to Urshifu, then the close combat would not have picked it up. So, props to Ivo for guessing that correctly, but still not out of the woods. The Grassy Glide is guaranteed to get a knockout onto this Brambleghast, since it doesn't have a Protect. So the best it could do is probably go for one last Shadow Sneak before it gets knocked out. So yeah, I think this Urshifu will end up having to contend with 2 grass types on its own, which, I'm not too optimistic that it can get through.
Yeah, and we're actually not going to see here it is just going to be a Shadow Sneak from this Brambleghast into the Rillaboom slot, and it is going to be a Grassy Glide from the Rillaboom finishing off this Brambleghast. And as you just mentioned, now this Urshifu facing off against the Ogerpon and the Rillaboom, not looking too great. Of course, Surging Strikes always crit, but you can't go Surging Strikes into the Ogerpon, and close combat actually enough to finish off this Ogerpon here. But Rillaboom, I mean, depending on how many grassy terrain turns there still are, this could get closer than we think. Because, of course, as long as the grassy terrain is here, Rillaboom can just go for Grassy Glides, which will definitely knock out the Urshifu. But if Ivo can get like a double Protect here and then maybe crit a close combat, this could still turn out very differently.
Yeah, I think maybe Joji was hearing us commentate because he pulled up the status screen for us just in time to see that the grassy terrain is 2 turns left. So it's exactly as you said. If Ivo could get this double Protect or double Detect this turn, then I think he will be able to go for close combat, before the Rillaboom is able to move. So it all just comes down to this turn. Does the double Detect happen or not? I see Evo's thinking, but I don't think there's any other option, and he gets it! Oh my goodness! Gets the one win condition for him.
Now the question is, this Urshifu, it is still at -1, so is this close combat going to be enough to finish it off? I mean, it is at -2 defenses. It is at -2 defense, so even without the grassy terrain, I'm confident that a Grassy Glide or even a Woodhammer or whatever is gonna knock it out easily. But I would have to guess Ivo needs to crit this close combat in order to win, but I'm honestly not sure. Here's the close combat.
Here it goes!
It is enough to knock out the Rillaboom. No crit needed after all. Wow, what a turnaround for Ivo in that first game.
I think our second game is ready. I'm really excited to see how both players will adjust. I think both players have the opportunity to adjust. So we'll go ahead and see the leads, and it's Ivo going out with the same Tortoise Landorus, and yeah, Joji going for Tortoise Arcanine.
Yeah, so both Pokemon firing up Intimidates once again, and what do you think here, Yuki? Are they gonna go for the same Bleak Wind Storm Rock Slide play again this first turn?
I mean, if I were Joji, I really hope he doesn't, because I think, yeah, having the extra turn of Tailwind might not be worth losing the Arcanine, which I think you identified earlier being the only answer to that Bramble Ghast. But we already see an adjustment happening as Joji switching out the Arcanine, going for the Goldengo, potentially baiting out the Rock Slide on that Landorus, who will be locked into it thanks to the Choice Band item. And then there'll be two Pokemon who will not be able to hit it for very effective damage.
Yeah, so this Landorus did lock itself into Rock Slide here, which, you know, still a good move to lock into, but is not going to do a lot to this Goldengo here, taking that very nicely. And a Bleak Wind Storm is also not going to be doing a lot of damage to this Goldengo, and that was a great switch for Joji. Now this Landorus is locked into that Rock Slide move, which, you know, of course is threatening that Tornadus, but if this Tornadus can just get off a Tailwind, that might be all it needs to do in order to, you know, get a lot of damage done from not only Steel type, but also, you know, you still have the Arcanine in the back, of course. So will be interesting to see if Ivo maybe wants to consider a switch here on the Landorus, since you know, it is also at -1. You might need the Intimidate a little bit later against both the physical attackers in the back. So yeah, I'm not sure. It's gonna be interesting to see how this turn plays out now.
Yeah, I think Joji was very successful in baiting Evo into locking into the Rock Slide and basically letting the Goldengo get a free turn of Nasty Plot. But we see the Bramble Ghast, the Star Show, already come up, and oh, it's already reaping the benefits, getting the Bleak Wind boost and missing the opponent's Tornadus. So Joji really taking the bad end of the stick there and finishing out the turn with the Bleak Wind Storm. So yeah, oh sorry, we're not finishing out the turn. We had the last Nasty Plot happening. But yeah, I think the Goldengo is, you know, boosted up, but definitely doesn't want to be staring down this Bramble Ghast, especially in Tailwind.
Okay, so I have to ask now, you know, this Goldengo is standing here at +2, you know, you can still go for the Terra Dragon, obviously to resist any potential Shadow Sneaks from this +1 Bramble Ghast. But what do you think? If Goldengo goes for a Terra Dragon here, does it survive this turn? If the Bramble Ghast goes for something like Shadow Sneak and the Tornadus just goes for Bleak Wind Storms?
I think even just like a Poltergeist going into the Goldengo that's terrestrialized could be pretty bad news for Joji, especially if the opposing Tornadus goes for a Tailwind, then it will be at +2, so that'll be a really, really strong Poltergeist, even if the Bramble Ghast doesn't terrestrialize.
Yeah, and Tornadus on Evo's side is going to set up the Tailwind, so is going to give Bramble Ghast that Wind Rider boost. Once again, it is at +2 now, and we are going to see a Tailwind on Joji's side as well, so both players going for that Tailwind, and Bramble Ghast is going to go for its move, which is going to be the Poltergeist in that Tornadus, is going to be able to knock it out easily at +2. So yeah, Joji has 3 more turns of Tailwind now, and then that's it. Make it rain here at +2, also enough to knock out the Tornadus and bring that Bramble Ghast down to the Focus Sash. So yeah, both Tornadus setting up Tailwinds and then basically going down to the offensive attackers of the other player means that speed control in this case really not meaning that much, but you still have to go for the Tailwind, because if, you know, your opponent goes for the Tailwind and you don't, that could really make a difference, and you do not want to have that disadvantage, I think.
Totally, but I think Joji is playing out of his mind there to not only not protect his Goldengo, but didn't even go for a terrestrialization. I just said, I know you're going to read my Goldengo protecting, and you're going to attack my Tornadus, so I'm going to just attack and just not be scared at all of your Poltergeist, and it just works out perfectly for Joji. And now the Bramble Ghast is under threat of the Grassy Glide, a priority move coming up from the Rillaboom, and this Terra Dragon can take probably any attack coming its way from the Urshifu. So it was looking really scary for me in the previous turn, but I think Joji has really turned things around.
Yeah, and now this Urshifu coming in here, of course, is threatened by one fake out in that first turn, but you know, this Rillaboom, I think, still really needs to watch out for this Bramble Ghast, because Poltergeist at +2 at this point is going to do a lot of damage to pretty much anything. And you know, that Goldengo, once again, I'm not sure if even a Terra Dragon is going to save you at this point, but we're going to have to see how this turn plays out. We are going to see a Terrestrialization on what I believe was that Goldango. Yes, no, it is going to be first the Urshifu for Evo Terrestrializing into that Poison type. So, yeah, does not want to be weak to any incoming Grassy Glides or Wood Hammers if the Rillaboom does not go for a Fake Out. And double Terrestrialization, Joji is going to Terrestrialize that Goldango, so it's going to turn into a Dragon type. Yeah, gonna be curious to see if the Rillaboom just went for a powerful Grass move or decided to, you know, abuse that first Fake Out turn. But no Fake Out. We are going to see a Shadow Sneak into that Rillaboom, doing a respectable amount of damage, and Grassy Glide just going to finish off that Bramble Gas. Also a very respectable play by Joji there. And now this Urshifu is going to be able to go for a close combat into that Rillaboom, and that Life Orb shining through once again, getting that KO on that Rillaboom on Joji's side. But now, having dropped the special defenses, means that this incoming Make It Rain or Shadow Ball could be very powerful. It is going to be a Shadow Ball into the Urshifu. Is it going to be enough? It is going to be enough to get the KO on that Urshifu once again. So yeah, that Life Orb really, you know, making the close combat strong enough to knock out that Rillaboom, but also, you know, having that, I mean, the HP you lost with that probably didn't matter, but yeah, the close combat special defense drop might have.
Yeah, I think so. I think what Joji did was pretty safe there. He said, okay, like I can pick up this Bramble Gas before it gets off anything more than just a Shadow Sneak using my Grassy Glide priority move, and then I'm a Terrestrialized Dragon so that if there were to be any Surging Strikes going into the Goldango, I could resist it. So when I saw the close combat animation at first, I was scared that maybe Evo might have read the Goldango Terrestrializing, since especially there was no Intimidate going into it, so that would have been a super strong close combat going into the Goldango, but luckily there was not that strong of a read. Evo, yeah, probably respecting the fact that Goldango not terrestrializing the turn before might not terrestrialize again. And yeah, I think that ends up being a pretty clean game now for Joji. I think the 2v1 is probably going to be a little bit too much for the Landorus to handle, especially given Goldango no longer having the ground weakness.
Yeah, and Arcanine is going for a little bit of extreme speed damage here before it goes down to that Choice Bed Stomping Tantrum, and now this Make It Rain should be easily enough to knock out this Landorus. So Joji is going to tie this one up, and we are going to be heading into a game 3. And oh, yeah, this third game is definitely going to be really interesting to watch, which I believe we are ready to get into in just a second.
Absolutely. So, like you said, any adjustment can happen. It's a difficult one, especially given it's game 3. All the marbles on the line. Both teams 2-2, and we see the Tortoise Landorus. So Evo not making an adjustment, at least from the lead perspective. But Joji changing things up again for the third time, leading with the classic Tortoise Urshifu combination.
Yeah, we've seen this one a few times already. Also, you know, Joji is playing the more standard Mystic Water set. So yeah, both Tornadus here, of course, have the opportunity to go for a Tailwind once again. And the Landorus, it is Terra Water, it is Choice Band, so no potential Terra Blast, Terra Flying into this Urshifu.
Yeah, so I think the Urshifu not in the best spot. It doesn't really want to attack the Tornadus, who has the Rocky Helmet item, so it would lose about half of its health just by attacking into it. And also, if the opposing Landorus were to Terrestrialize, then the Surging Strikes won't do that much damage either. So I'm curious to see, because I think the Urshifu Terrestrializing into water, as well as the Landorus. I don't think you see this happen. Both Landorus and Urshifu Terrestrializing into the same type on the same turn. But this is what's going to happen, and I have a feeling there's going to be a Surging Strikes coming on the way.
Yeah, and Bleakwood Storm here first from the Tornadus, so no Tailwinds on either side. Urshifu is going to go for that Surging Strike. It is going to be the Tornadus slot, so not falling for that Terra Water on the Landorus, meaning that this Tornadus is going to be knocked out before it can get off any move at all. And of course, there is the Rocky Helmet recoil from from that item slot, but that might have just been worth it for Joji. And now this Landorus here does not have an Intimidate drop, so can go for an all-powerful Rock Slide, but is going to miss that Tornadus and is not going to miss that Tornadus, my bad, is going to not be able to knock out either of these Pokemon. But yeah, I think that was a huge knockout for Joji that first turn.
Absolutely. I mean, I think this is just like another adjustment that I don't think anybody, including us or Evo, saw coming, which is, okay, I noticed that my opposing Tornadus is slower than mine. And maybe, Joji might have trained his Urshifu to have a similar speed as his Tornadus and made him confident that his Urshifu must also be faster than the opposing Tornadus. So he said, okay, I'm going to either prevent you from getting Tailwind up at all, or even if you get it up before me, I'm going to knock it out so that I still get this Tailwind advantage by sending it up second. So a really excellent turn from Joji. And yeah, I think Evo was able to get the Bramblegast out, the scary Pokemon we've been talking about. But the difference is that this time there is no Wind Rider. It hasn't been hit by a Bleakwind Storm, and it has not been set up the Tailwind. So I think Evo is already in a really difficult spot. And yeah, I think there's a threat of Shadow Sneak, which I don't know if it would knock out the Urshifu, but it looks like it didn't even go for it. So the Surging Strike will just go straight into the Bramblegast.
Yeah, and Joji did set up the Tailwind now, so we'll have that Tailwind advantage for the next few turns. And the Surging Strike, not enough to knock out that Bramblegast. We were talking about how Bramblegast is not necessarily the most tanky Pokemon, but does take that Terra Water, Mystic Water's Surging Strike very nicely. And here we are going to see the Poltergeist, I believe, knock out this Urshifu. And yeah, that Rocky Helmet damage really, helping also get that KO. But yeah, this Bramblegast has already taken a lot of damage, but Tornadus for Joji going to go down as well. So even though that was a very nice start for Joji, he is down 2 Pokemon now. And honestly, I'm not sure if he expected that Surging Strike to KO that Bramblegast, because I think personally I would have. But yeah, it hanging on there could make a little bit of a difference here.
Yeah, Bramblegast really not known for its HP and ability to take hits, but thanks to its typing, I guess, still able to take the powerful Surging Strikes. And yeah, it looks like at first glance, maybe Joji could be on the back foot, being down 2-3 after being up 4-3, but I think I'd be pretty happy to be in Joji's shoes right now. Neither of Evo's Pokemon have the Protect, so there's a free, Grass type move going into the Landorus. And presumably it could be the Urshifu again in the back, just like the other 2 games. Then there really is no safe switch for either of these Pokemon. And given that they will both move before Evo's Pokemon, since Joji is the only one in Tailwind, I don't see how Joji will just not get 2 KOs this turn.
Yeah, and the Urshifu is going to switch, and it's just going to take that Horn Leech and go down immediately. But yeah, really not that risky of a play here for Joji in the position that he's in. And the Wood Hammer just going to finish off this Bramblegast. So yeah, wow, what a sweep. Ogerpon Rillaboom taking out 2 Pokemon this turn. That Tailwind really, being very useful for Evo. And now it is a 2v1, and I mean, that Landorus is going to come back in here, and it is going to fire off an Intimidate, but it is a Terra Water type now, so it is going to be weak to any grass moves from both of these grass type Pokemon.
Yeah, Terra Water, not Terra Grass, not having access to the Terra Flying. I think this Landorus is, contrary to the more common types, this one is just going to be grass Pokemon food, so I think no matter how it goes, I think Joji will be able to wrap this one up and really clutch it out after a pretty, devastating Game 1 loss. So big props to Joji and also to Evo for really putting on a really great match for us.
Yeah, no, very well played by Joji there. I think if I were in Evo's position in that turn 1, I would have probably also thought to myself, there's no way he's going Surging Strike into my Rocky Helmet Tornadus. There's just no way. So I probably didn't see that coming, but Joji's saying, honestly, I'm taking the Rocky Helmet damage. If your Tornadus is gone, that's good enough for me. And then, Rillaboom and Ogerpon can come in and do the rest with this Tailwind from my Tornadus.